Okay, today is lesson 110. The objectives for lesson 110 are multiplying decimal numbers using zeros, very similar to lesson 109. Lesson 110 is found on page 723, but very similar to lesson 109, except we're going to multiply, instead of 0 and 3/10 times 4, we might have a number okay, 3/100 with a 0 as a placeholder. Okay, 3 times 4 is still 12. We now have two decimal places, so our answer is, having some trouble with the pen right now. So our answer is 12/100 versus before when we didn't have a 0 in the tens place. The 3's there now. 3 times 4 is still 12. We'd only move one place value over because there's only one decimal place. Okay? Oh boy. Alright, so let's look at the new concept. Found on page 723. It says when we multiply decimal numbers, we follow... Let's try this again. Peanuts and potatoes, peanuts and potatoes, peanuts and potatoes. Okay. When we multiply decimal numbers, we follow the rule, multiply, then count. We count the total number of decimal places in the factors. Then, starting from the right-hand end of the product, we count over the same number of places and mark the decimal point. Okay. Sometimes there are more decimal places in the factors than there are digits in the product. Look at this problem for example. And they show 0 and 3/10 and they multiply it by 0 and 3/10. Okay? Yesterday none of the problems, 3 times 3 is 9, none of the problems had 2 decimal places. That would force us to put a 0 in here to hold the tenths place value. But again, you have 2 decimal places, you have to move it 2 places over, you have to substitute this 0 in because it holds some value, and 9/10 is a different number than 9/100. Okay, I think yesterday I even had a practice problem that looks similar to this, so hopefully this won't be too difficult of a concept for us to learn. Okay, let's look at example number 1 right away. Example 1 on your YouTube sheets. Write down 0 and 12/100 times 0 and 3/100. And sorry my pen is being a little bit difficult today. I'll just pick it up a little bit more. Okay, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Remembering that these zeros we don't have to worry about. We'll just leave them off to the side. They hold the ones place, but they don't hold any value. Okay, now I'm going to count my decimal places. I have 1, 2, 3 decimal places. So I have to move it over from the right side of our product. 1, 2, 3 digits. Okay. Now there are only 2 digits here, so I have to substitute a 0 in for the tenths place. Okay. And your answer is 0 and 36 thousandths for example 1. Example 2, we're going to do a practice problem. Let's look at practice problem A. We have 0 and 25/100 times 0 and 3/10. Okay, 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. Count your decimals. 1, 2, 3. So move it over 1, 2, 3 places, placing your 0 in for the tenths place. Your answer is 75 thousandths. You can put a 0 in the ones place if you would like to. Okay, that's your answer for example 2. Example 3, we'll do 1 or 2 more of these. Example 3, let's do 0 and 7/100 and multiply that by 0 and multiply that by 0 and 12/100. Okay? 2 times 7 is 14. Usually we put the single digit number on the bottom. But if we wanted to do it this way, we could. 2 times 7 is 14. Let's bring our 0 down because this is in the next place. Let's take 1 times 7 and get 7. Add those together, we get 4. We get 84. Now let's counter decimals. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Understanding that we have 4 decimal places to deal with, we end up with 84 10,000ths. Okay, let's double check our work and flip that. Okay, 1200ths times 700ths. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, filling in your zeros there, we end up with, again, 84 10,000ths. Let's do the final one, example. Is this example 4? Okay, example 4. We're going to do practice problem K. This is an area problem. We will find the area of this perfect rectangle that I drew. Our length is 4/10 of a meter. Our width is 2/10 of a meter. Again, the area of a shape is length times width. My length is 4/10. My width is 2/10. I multiply those two together and I get 8. I have 1, 2 decimal place values. I move my decimal over 2 places, placing a 0 here. My answer for my label is meters squared, because of course this is area. So we have 800 meters squared for an answer for example number 4. If you have any questions, of course, bring them to me tomorrow and we will cover them when you get there. Okay, have a good night. See you then.